Good morning, everyone. Hope the day and or night is treating you well. I am here at the Quinault Lodge in the Quinault Rainforest, and my wife and I are staying in this historic lodge here on the lake. And as you can see behind me, this is a beautiful, beautiful lodge. So got up at sunrise here so that I could go out here and try to get a picture of this while there's still some lights and stuff on. And just looking for a composition here. I've never been here before, so sometimes that's tough. Anyway, we'll get set up here and see what kind of shot we can end up with early in the morning here. Alright, so I got a pretty good composition here. I can make sure that I've got the whole lodge in the photo. And then of course I'm trying to figure out what I want to do in regards to the foreground and the sky. So right behind the lodge here, there's a big thing of trees, as you can see there. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to crop those out. So going to 24mm, and then I'm going to try to, looks like I'm at about f8. Checking my histogram here. It looks like about f8 should get me what I need. That sky might be a little blown out, so I might end up stopping down a little bit, and then also having on a 2-second delay as well. That way when I hit that shutter, the photo doesn't, or the camera doesn't shake. I was hoping to get this with a little bit more lights on, but it looks like people are still late to get up here. It's only about 7 o'clock, so might have to come out again tonight when it's just starting to get dark and see if we can get more lights on. I think it'll look a lot better that way. So luckily we have some time tonight in order to be able to do that. So we're back out at these waterfalls this morning now that I've got my tripod. Light's just coming up here, so really cool waterfalls, but I'm just trying to find a decent composition so that I can get everything in. I mean, you're really close to it, so it makes it a little bit tougher, especially with getting spray all over your camera. So if I stand too far back on the road, then I'm going to get the road and stuff in my foreground. It's not going to make for a pretty good photo. So I'm going to walk around and try and see if I can find a good spot to shoot this thing. Alright, so I think I found a pretty good shot, a vertical shot here with some really cool rocks in the foreground, then going up to the waterfall. This would be a one shot I'll try. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up first before I take off my lens cap, because I'm getting a bunch of spray coming in. So I'm going to try to get everything level and get everything set up first. But as you can see, the cool thing about this Nikon is I don't worry at all about the weather protection. I know this thing is sealed. I do have a cover for it that I can use if it gets too bad, but at this point it's not a lot of rain. But one of the main reasons why I picked this camera was because of the weather sealing that Nikon's known for. So all right, so got that shot. I think that one's going to be pretty good. Did it a few different f-stops, stopped down quite a bit, tried to get everything in focus, and then took horizontal and then a vertical as well, just to try to get a couple different shots. Did a couple at around f11, f13 or so, and then stopped down to 5.6, which is the sharpest for this lens. The 24-70 is the 5.6. So anyway, gonna try another quick composition here, see if it's any better. I like it because I'm not getting a lot of the rain on me here on the side shot that I've got, and I've got a lot of really cool foreground here. So we'll see how this works. All right, so here's the next shot that I've got. This is from the side, so I'm just trying to figure out exactly how I want to compose it. I've got this big fern in front of me that I could use in my foreground, or I could just use the cool rocks in the water. Might shoot it both ways. I think the fern might be a little too overpowering for the whole shot, so I might just take one quick shot with it, but probably won't use it. I'll probably just use the waterfall. There's enough going on with the waterfall and the busyness there where I don't think I need that. All right, so moving on to the next spot. Those photos, those are great. That was just what I was hoping for. They had a lot of cool foreground with all the moss on these rocks, and then to have all those cascading waterfalls. That's going to be a fantastic photo. So shots where I focused in the foreground, the midground, and then the waterfall. So if I have to focus stack those together, I will, but checking the focus on the camera, everything pretty sharp. Again, I was shooting around f8 to f11, so I should have a pretty good chance of getting everything in focus. Plus, everything's really close to foreground, midground, and background. There wasn't a lot of separation, so should end up with really sharp photos and just a lot of cool color with all this green moss out here in this rainforest. So we're now at falls number 2, which is just at the entrance to Olympic National Park. What we were just driving through was Olympic Forest. Anyway, so let's see what these waterfalls look like and see if we can get a good composition here. This one's going to be tougher, I think, than the last one we were at, because still be a good shot, but I think I have to do it from the bridge here, which isn't bad, I guess. I just don't know if I'm going to have as cool as a foreground as I did prior. Well, those are some cool falls right there. That's nuts. Good thing about coming in the winter, you can always get those Russian waterfalls. What I'm doing is I'm trying to check all my corners, and that's something you want to try to do, is because when I first set up what I thought was going to be a really good shot, they had all these really dead trees in the shot. And you can Photoshop those out, but it would take some time. So I'm trying to find a way that I can get those out of my shot, or at the very least just get a small amount of them. That way I can try to Photoshop them out, but I prefer not to. The problem is, no matter where I go here, I've got a little bit of some dead tree that's blocking my shot. So I am taking a couple different ones to see what I can come up with. Yeah, so there's just no shot down here. In order to be able to get that shot, I'd have to be able to get more out in that water, and there's no way that's going to happen. Because here I've got a big boulder blocking my way, and then also a bunch of tree branches. So it looks like the road's going to be the best bet. It's a good shot, nonetheless, but I'm just kind of hoping to get a little bit more clearing, and it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. All right, so got this second shot. Tried a couple different compositions, a couple different f-stops. Light's starting to come out pretty bright now, so any other photos that I'm going to take from this point forward, I'm probably going to end up having to use the filter. I've got a 6-stop ND filter, so I may end up having to put that on. That's the reason why we got up early, is so that I wouldn't have as much light, so that I could have these longer exposure shots. You know, earlier this morning I started out, I think I was like at a 15 to 20 second exposure. Now I'm barely able to do 1 second. So that's what light does, and it's totally fine. But if you want to be able to shoot these without a filter, you really need to be up really early, just as the sun is starting to rise. Otherwise, you're gonna have too much light and not gonna be able to do it. All right, so I'm down here on Ruby Beach. One of the main subjects of this place is this rock right behind me here. You see how it's the 2 little holes in it that you can see light through. So as you can see, it's a pretty nasty day, and we're probably about half an hour or so from sunset. So we're definitely not getting any color. So the hope is just to try to compose a decent shot, and then probably do a black and white with this one, would be my guess, when it's all said and done, which will probably still look pretty cool. So anyway, right now what I'm trying to do is I've got a vertical composition set up, and try to horizontal, but I like the vertical better, just so I can have just this subject in there. Don't care too much about the ocean actually being in it, because right now there's not much to see on the ocean anyway. So, and then the sky is pretty blown out, so I'm not too concerned with the sky. So I'm going to try to have a little bit of foreground with these little pebble and rocks, and then the subject itself being the big giant rock here. So anyway, we'll see how it turns out, and hopefully get something out of it. Definitely wasn't what we came here for. Was just kind of a stop on the way. So the rainforest is really what we're hoping to get a lot of good shots of. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow and see what we can come up with. All right, so made a few adjustments because I was blowing out my highlights, which I didn't want to do. So now, instead of being at f8, I stopped down to f11, Now still 1/5 of a second in ISO 100. Now if you take a look at this histogram, you'll see that the right side is no longer touching the edge. If I was to adjust that back, you can see how it's gonna blow out there, which I don't want. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna underexpose this just a touch, because you can always bring back your shadows in Lightroom. If you blow those highlights out, you can't recover those. So I try to get close to the right and expose that way, but I also want to be able to keep some shadow detail as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take a couple shots here, see how they turn out. Like I said, going to be underexposed a couple stops, but again, I'm going black and white anyhow on this, so I'm going to want some contrast here between the light and the darks. So I think it's going to end up working out pretty good. One other piece of advice I'd have is to check your corners, check your top and bottom too. Make sure you're not cutting off stuff. I mean, it's pretty simple sometimes if you don't take your time to cut off pieces of your landscape. And so in this case, I've got this rock that I don't want to cut off the top. So I make sure that I leave a little bit of space up there. Don't try to get too close and end up cutting that off if you can. If you have to back the camera up or move it closer, whatever you need to do in order to get your subject into full frame, that's all the better. You just don't want to be cutting off rocks, trees, things of that nature. So as you can see in this photo here, I've got the full rock with some distance around it. I'm not cramped in it, so it leaves a little bit of space as well. Anyway, so we've concluded our time here at Ruby Beach. Not bad. I would imagine in the summertime it's probably really beautiful if you can get a nice sunset. All right, so we're at a little hike. I think it's like half a mile. As you can see, this place is just cool. I mean, everything's green. I mean, you got every shade of green that you can imagine. Even in the foreground here, you've got all these green plants in the water. Then you've got all these rainforest trees with all of their moss. This is just a really cool picture. Came out, it wasn't raining. It is now. Luckily, I feel pretty comfortable with the Nikon Z6 and this weather sealing that it's got. I do have a cover for it that I just didn't bring, and we'd have to walk back a few minutes. So I won't be shooting long here, but again, not overly concerned about it because that's what you spend the money for when you buy a good camera like this, is situations like this where you're going to be out in the elements. All right, so starting to get pretty wet out here. Found this really cool composition where I've got these a leading line from the path, and I've got these two ferns just basically across from one another in almost perfect symmetry. And then they've got this mossy tree, and what the guide was telling us is for every foot of moss, that is 25 years that it's been alive. And so that tree right there, probably one of the best ones we've seen in this place. I would guess that thing's over 100 plus, maybe 200 years old. So pretty awesome to come through here and see these trees like this. And if you like just green, you're not going to find any more than this. I mean, it's got every single tone of green in this place that you can imagine. So right now, just taking a couple quick shots, and then glad I brought the tripod because I need to have about a little bit longer exposure to get the f-stop that I want. So I'm just glad I'm not trying to handhold this thing. That was the Maple Glade Rainforest Trail that we just walked, and it is maybe half a mile, but it's spectacular. It's probably the coolest half-mile hike you'll probably ever hike, especially if you like rainforest and trees and water and mushrooms and whatever else was in there. Yeah. Moss. It was moss. Yeah, it was cool. Hopefully some of the photos I take will hopefully do some justice, but it's awesome. And again, I think I talked about this earlier, but make sure you come prepared, because we got stuck out when we parked and there was no rain. And then when we got out there, luckily we had our rain jackets on and we have hiking boots on, but we're both, well, at least I'm in jeans, Kim's in good pants, but I have rain pants, I just didn't put them on. And then I have a cover for my camera and I just didn't bring it. So luckily it was only half a mile. If we were deep in the woods, then I would have definitely taken it with me. But if you do come to the rainforest, like I mentioned earlier, just make sure you have a lot of good rain gear to protect yourself. And it's pretty cold too right now. It's It's 46, but it felt really cold out there when you're getting wet. So, all right. So one of the cool things about staying at this lodge is just right across the street. As you can see, we are now hiking. They have connector trails that basically connect you through, I don't know, at least a few miles of trails. Yeah. And they go to different spots. So they got a nature trail that people highly recommend to see a lot of the rainforest. I think it's an interpretive type trail, so they can actually guide you through. At least they have some postings to show you what's what. And then they also have some waterfalls. So we'll take a hike up here, see what we got when it's all said and done. Probably about 2 miles maybe in total. So once you thought you'd seen it all, the Quinault forest just keeps, or rainforest just keeps surprising you. So we're at another waterfall here. So as you can see, that waterfall is awesome from down here, but unfortunately, you just have a lot of dead trees everywhere. And the only decent shot would be if we went down here and looked up, but there's really no access down there. The only thing we've got is basically to set the tripod here, and then you can see you just have all these dead trees. It just wouldn't make for a good shot, unfortunately. Sometimes it happens, you get a really beautiful spot, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get a good shot. So, and it never hurts when you have a trusty sidekick to help you along the way. So while I'm out scouting, Kim's here holding all the gear for me. I think you look just fine doing that. You go, Paul. Oh, it smells good. Tripod. I know. Check my back, will you?
You're good.
Son of a...
You just have a bunch of tree goo in here.
That sucks so bad.
Here.
Huh. Damn.
Your top of your tripod is all full of tree goo.
I wasn't made for squatting, man. Wow, that was quite the squat. Not very easy when you got a backpack with a tripod hooked up to it.
You've got tree bark all over.
So I basically bit it. Yeah.
It's all over your backpack.
We don't go on any vacation or trip or anything without me eating it at some point.
He's special.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed our little trip around the Olympic National Forest. We had a great time, good weekend. Got a lot of ate a lot of good food, had some good drinks, took some good photos, had a good time all around. So hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.